All right, folks, welcome into another edition of the High School Huddle. I'm AJ Feldman. He's Carl Jones. It's Thursday, September 8th. The NFL season is finally here, which means it's time to talk about some high school sports.
Yeah, I think that's how it's supposed to go. I don't know about what's going on the West Coast, but I do know we had a great week last week, high school ball, not just football and other sports as well as you'll get into. But, man, I'm excited. Last week my juice was flowing, getting back in the rhythm a little bit. While the weather is still doable. Don't forget that part too. So I'm having fun, man. I'm having fun.
The weather is fantastic. And, we had a cold stretch, a rainy stretch, Sunday, Monday. We missed it all for football. Somehow weather was looking good. We had Friday, Saturday. I mentioned this on air. They talk about football weather, November, October, snowfall, and playoff football. Guess what? Football weather was great last weekend. Why can't that be? Let's normalize enjoying 80 degrees and sunshine while we're playing some football.
I don't know who coined that phrase, but they need to stop it because nobody who's on that field likes playing in football weather. So they need, I'm with you 100% on that one. That one needs to go by the wayside.
No, it was very nice. We were short sleeves, shorts for some of these outings, but yeah, we had some great games. We'll get all to it to right now. We'll start off. First, let's talk about the game outside the game first. Now, big high school football weekend, big high school football game. Carl, you were at Equate and Aquinas, and getting there, big excitement. Leaving the game, a different story.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of take things for granted a little bit, because of COVID. One, and I know we've been removed from the COVID restrictions for about a year now, but even during the pandemic with traffic and stuff like that, I feel like that was one of the positives, man. Traffic was free blowing all the time. You get anywhere. Yesterday, I got brought back to reality on how primetime high school football works. Man, the game ended at, I want to say 8:50. And I had my plans on going to another game, put another game on the frenzy. I didn't get out of that parking lot till 45, 50 minutes later. And it wasn't stopping. I was just paused, stuck. And it hurt. It was really, really, really irritating. And it brought me back to, so this is what it's like, huh? This is what it's like. Because I didn't run into that issue last year. I mean, either left the game early or, some of the restrictions were still there. So, got introduced real quick to somehow how big time football works from that perspective, man. It hurt, man. It hurt.
Yeah, we were monitoring 3 different games that you could have gone to. We had the streams going. We're checking Twitter, this and that. This game's at this time. This game's getting close. This team's pulling away. And, you get in your car 8:55, and I'm texting all these plans. Got, all this figured out. And Carl's just got to warn you, man. I don't know if we're moving anywhere anytime soon. I'm all right, we'll just see how it goes. 20 minutes later, still not moving. And then 40 minutes goes by. All right, we got nothing. But we had a lot of great, yeah.
I might have moved the first down 10 yards in maybe 20 minutes. I kid you not. That's how bad it was. Because I was in the back. If anybody was in the McQuaid, I was in the back, right next to the field. But not a good idea for that game at that time. So put that one in the vault and remember that for next time.
Yes, we will remember that for all our big games coming up. We got a lot of football coverage with Thad coming out, to LA on the West Coast, high school or, NFL season starting up. We haven't been able to get out to as many soccer, volleyball games, things in that nature that we've been to. But I did get out to one volleyball game and, been monitoring some volleyball scores. The landscape has changed here at Section 5. That is for sure. Victor last year, state champions, Emma Workmeister, tournament MVP, tons of D1 players on that roster, handful of D1 players on that roster. They had a lot of seniors last year. And, there is no COVID year in high school sports. We see it in college football all the time. No COVID year. They've got a lot of work cut out for them. There's a changing of the guard here in Section 5. Penfield, the team that lost to Victor in the sectional championship game, a dramatic 5-set match, arguably the toughest test that Victor faced all of last season. Looks like they're at top, and we're going to see if anybody can knock them off. They started with their own host tournament on Saturday, and there were, a handful of out-of-section teams coming into this one. A lot of the top dogs in Section 5. They swept through that entire tournament, 6-0 in pool play, a semifinals victory over Mercy. and a championship victory over Shenandoah. I believe I say that right. So they have a lot of horses coming back. Nicole Bell was their MVP, all-tournament team, Caitlin Jewett and Hannah Sobko. So right now it's Penfield. We'll see if anybody else can beat them. But after the run that Victor went on, it looks like it is Penfield's time to shine in Section 5.
That was the storyline last year, though. I remember when you sat down with the team and interviewed them, it was kind of like an all-in mentality because this is kind of it, like, you know, the last dance for those young ladies that come short in, like, because of COVID and other situations. But, you know, this is it. And then on the flip side, we knew Penfield was relatively young compared to Victor. So it was like, we'll see how Victor reloads. And then we saw that, you know, Penfield was knocking on that doorstep and literally a point away from taking them down last year.
Yeah, so Victor, it's going to be a process. I believe they only have 3 seniors on their roster this year. So definitely a reloading year for them. We'll see how Section 5 volleyball shapes out in the coming weeks. But as we mentioned, we had some great football games this week. Very rare that we get one game as good as we got last week. We got 2. They were fighting for our A1 spot, and it was just a rivalry factor its own that pushed it over the top. Carl, hit us off the bat with your team of the week, which should probably come as no surprise here.
I got to rock with McQuaid. I mean, we talked about, you know, how it was going to be a big game because it was McQuaid and Aquinas, and it lived up to the hype and then some. Week 1 matchup, so, you know, you still had some of the, you know, the kinks, the penalties, the mistakes. But I think that's what kind of made it cool because it was both teams. It wasn't like one team was just overmatching the other. There were some familiar faces on both sides and stars that stood out. To give a little background of the game, Aquinas led in the first half 21-6, and then McQuaid would score 2 touchdowns to make it 21-20 coming out, going into the half. Aquinas would score shortly thereafter in the third, and then McQuaid, by the hands of John Harding, who had himself a ball game, over 200 total yards, kickoff returns, receiving yards, and rushing yards as well, had himself a ball game. He would score the game-tying and game-winning tugs. I mean, the game had everything. He had a near pick 6. Michael White put on a show for Aquinas' quarterback, throwing the ball. I think he had like over 220 yards passing. But I got to give kudos to Will DeMarco, the sophomore. For one, when you get there originally, I don't know about you, AJ, I've never seen the number 80 at quarterback. That kind of threw me for a loop, not going to lie to you. So when I saw him out there, I'm like, oh, that quarterback got hurt. And then I saw he like got his helmet knocked off or something. And then like he came out. I'm like, oh, okay, maybe he was the backup originally. And then he came back in the next play. I'm like, oh, so he the starter. Like he's the guy. Okay. Shout out to him. He had himself a ball game, 3 touchdowns, over 100 yards passing. Only a sophomore as well. And he was throwing to his brother, Anthony DeMarco. So clearly the DeMarco brothers got something cooking over there at McQuaid. But man, what a ball game. I got to give the Knights they love for knocking down their rivals. Their 5th time taking down the Little Irish in I guess a 3-year span, considering the COVID year and all that other stuff. Who know how the math works with the COVID year. But regardless, 5 straight wins over the rivals, nothing to sneeze at. And John Harding and Will DeMarco, I'm giving you guys your flowers. Yeah,
the one thing that reminds me of the jersey numbers, when I was back in Bemidji State, for some reason, the practice jerseys for the quarterbacks, you know, the red non-contact numbers, they were like 61, 62, and 63. It was like the strangest thing ever. Like I got there to week 1 at training camp, you know, and I'm like trying to figure out who's this quarterback. I'm like, we got like 6 punters here. Like why the hell we got, you know, these dudes wearing 61? And I, you know, talked to the, you know, the communications. They're like, yeah, you know, this is just how we ordered them, I guess. And I believe it never changed since I left. I don't know if it's changed now, but until that I left the 2 years I was there, that was that. So that's what that brings me back to. But yeah, you know, especially a team, you know, you get a sophomore quarterback coming in, starting out strong, bodes well for this season, bodes well for the next 2. That's for sure.
100%. And we'll talk about it a little later. They got another test right after this one. So we'll see what that sophomore's build up coming up shortly.
And then the game that I was at, which, you know, I said it on our show, it might turn out to be the game of the year. And this is not hyperbole. This is not, you know, living in the moment. This might have been the game of the year. You might be able to play this back when, you know, we're doing our fall awards show wrap up thing in December. We might just be able to play this clip right here where I talk about the Rush Henrietta Royal Comets and the Pittsburgh Panthers. RH winning 42-41. Hope you took the over in this high school football game. It was back and forth, back and forth. We're just going to pick this one up right in this recap at halftime. So we were, it was 21-14, Pittsford leading at the half. Rush Henrietta scores. It was Nasir Patton with a receiving touchdown. A long reception from Jackson Coppers. Evan Brock bulldozes his way to the end zone. We're tied at 28. Then we got Pittsford comes back and answered. 4th and 1. Nathan Rohde, 26 yards to the house. We got a fumble on the ensuing kickoff. Big hit. It actually was big. It was a nice strip by Douglas Denning. Stripped the ball out, recovered it. Caleb Lewis to Luke Fliss. Quick touchdown. His 5th passing touchdown of the game. Caleb Lewis was slinging it. We were talking about him coming into the game. He lived up to the hype. They missed the extra point. Royal Comets answer. Evan Brock with his best run of the night. He was just a beast. We're going to go to his stats here right now. 36 carries, 291 yards, 4 touchdowns. Hello, top spot on Section 5 best this week. Evan Brock was just an animal. Now, last year, they had, oh my gosh, his name is escaping me, the wrestler, Jaden Scott. Yes. Jaden Scott was their main guy last year for a lot of the season. And, you know, as I'm literally walking down, if anybody's been to Sutherland High School, as I'm walking down, it's a bit of a long and winding road. I got there just at the beginning of the 3rd quarter, and I hear the name O.J. Singletary come over the loudspeakers. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I forgot. You know, Jaden Scott left. They still got O.J. Singletary. You know, he's a big track star. He's a speedy guy. You know, all right, maybe Rush Henrietta's got somebody. I forgot about Evan Brock. And this dude was just, he was unstoppable. You know, the touchdown runs he had, he was bouncing off. The one play, he bounced off 6 or 7 guys. It was just a phenomenon, a sight to behold. Perhaps the best performance I've seen in my time in Section 5 sports here on the football field. And then, so they score to get down by 6 points. They go on another drive. They get the ball back with just under 4 minutes left. Brock got them into the red zone. They stall at the goal line. 4th and goal at the 6. They go to the bag of tricks. They hand it off on the end around. They give it to Tyler Bertaducci, swings it back to Coppers. Touchdown. Game over, right? Wrong. Pittsburgh comes all the way right back down the field. Caleb Lewis to Fliss, deep into RH territory. But then Royal Comets had a sack. It was by Khalid Bawa Allah. Moved Pittsburgh back into long field goal range. Apparently they got a really good kicker, but he had a 42-yarder. It got blocked, so we didn't get to see if he had the leg. Just an amazing football game. And then just the high quality of plays. You know, we could talk about back and forth scoring, this and that and this and that. All of these plays were great scores, great highlights for the TV world. It was just a fantastic football game. I was texting you the whole time, and you know, you're stuck in your car, like getting the recaps. You're like, what? And that's just how good this game was.
Yeah, it most certainly was, and I'm not gonna lie, I didn't really expect that, let alone the high quality performance, but that result either, because we had high hopes for Pittsburgh. But that goes to show back to our conversation a week ago where we had Class AA, had some horses that can run, and it's safe to say RH, the Royal Comets, they're like, hey, what about us? Hey, we got Evan Brock. What's up? We can throw the points up too. So I'm ecstatic that that game turned out the way it did with the high powered offense. And AJ not lying, he left some nice clips like off of air as well. There was some stuff that could have made the air and extend that highlight to another another minute if he could.
Could have been 3 minutes easily.
Right, it's just but TV restrictions, whatever, blase. But I'll tell you this: that game lived up to the billing. I mean, not lived up to the billing. It exceeded all expectations. So shout out to the Royal Comets, man. They did their thing for sure.
And you talk about our expectations. Pittsford in this top group, RH maybe not. This was not Pittsford, playing down to a tier 2 level. This was Rush Henrietta playing up to that top dog tier. It's obviously only 1 weekend, but we will see how this Class A section shapes up. But we might have 6 teams in this top bracket. And, I don't think we mentioned Jackson Green there. He did have a really long touchdown to start off the game. They were just clamping him the entire time after that. Obviously I'm watching through the lens of a camera. I'm only following the ball, but I was talking to the scorekeeper next to me, and she's like, yeah, they just been all over Jackson the entire time. But, Pittsford had a guy in Luke Fliss who was able to get it done. So Your quarterback throws for 5 passing touchdowns. I'm sure Jackson Green's having a Stephon Diggs AFC divisional round type of game. Like, all right, you know what? Gabriel Davis got 4 touchdowns, but hey, it doesn't matter if I do nothing. So, big high hopes for both of those teams. Should be exciting to see what Evan Brock could turn up for us this year. And then moving on from, our expected teams,